Never let me go now. Never let me go now.
Alright, so now that you've heard that, let's get started replicating it. The first thing you want to do is open up a Sylenth 1, and from the download pack in the description, if you haven't got that, download it now. Go to Menu inside Sylenth 1, click Load Preset, and find the folder in which the presets are. So the download will have Marshmello tutorial files, and then you want to go into the folder which says Yano Marshmello presets. There's 5 presets in there, and the first one you want to open up is Stab Bass, which is your basic stab bass. And let's set up our bass notes. So the way that I've got it up is from C as our first note, and we're going to go all the way across. So we've got 1 to 8 notes within that first bar. Let me go down to G, then up to A, and then the last 4 notes are A, G, A, B, like so. Pretty straightforward. Next thing you want to do is insert another Sylenth 1. So we'll go ahead and pop another one in there. And this is the one you want to load up for the sub bass. So again, menu, load preset, and in that folder you want to be finding sub bass. Bring that up. And then we're going to click on this bit here so it's highlighted. I'm going to copy that and we're going to paste it into the next channel below. And if we just turn this top one here off so that we're only going to hear this one playing, it sounds like this. That's your sub bass. If you're having a little bit of problem with the notes lengths on this one, just go ahead and click on here to open up FL Studio. And if you want to quickly snap to a certain viewpoint, hold down the shift button. Shift 1 will bring you out quite far. Shift 2 is my most comfortable position, and shift 3 is further in. So we want to go shift 2 to bring us to this zoom level, and you want to go control A to open up everything. And what we want to do is, if your notes are flush like this, we want to bring them back so there's a little bit of gap in between. That means that the sub bass has a little slight pause before the next one hits, and it doesn't sound like a long flowy note. So the difference is, if we have this all the way through, we get, which we don't want. If we bring it back, we get pretty straightforward. Okay. Next thing we want to do is insert another Sylenth 1, and in this one we're going to load up a preset again, except we're going to choose mid bass. Now for mid bass we are doing something very similar to what we have above, except we're going to have solid notes. So we're going to go all the way across for C, G, A, all the way through, and then of course we're going to want to do our follow notes for the last 4, so all together. So there's a little bit of a gap there. Let's bring that together so it's flush. Cool. If you want to know how I'm managing to do small increments instead of it snapping like so, when you're dragging, just hit the Alt button and then it'll go in small increments from there. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is link these to individual channels. So the first one we're going to put in, we're going to bring up our mixer. I've actually got my mixer on my other screen, so let me bring that back through. Let's just make this one fill the area. So we'll go to, say, channel 10. So what we want to do is make sure that we highlight the right thing. So for each of these, there's a green slot on the left-hand side. You can hold down Shift and highlight multiple ones at a time. We want to link in each of these individually. So make sure that one of them is highlighted. So the first one here, go to Mixer Channel. Let's go to Insert 10 for now. Press the Control button and then L, and that'll link that one in. What you want to do next is go back to your patterns. Select the one just below, so it's the only one highlighted. Go back to the main channel. Next one, Insert 11. Press Control, hold Control, and press L, and that'll link the next one in. And then repeat for the third one as well, so that we've got them all in there. So now if we play it back, we've got all sounds coming through on 3 different channels. So if we right click on one of these green notches here, it'll solo each of them. So what we want to do first before we move on to anything else is get each of these sounds in the right area in regards to stereo dynamics. So one of the most important things about filling out your sounds. So with a sub bass, we want to, in this case with Marshmello style track, we want to actually widen our sub bass so it's nice and wide, and then keep our stab bass in the middle, so that's in the central front, and then our mid bass stereoed as well. So we'll start with our first sound, which we're going to keep in the middle, and there's a couple basic things that we want to do with this stab bass, and we just want to add ourselves first a parametric EQ2, and we're just going to go to option 1. We're going to go to option 1, right click on option 1 right here, go order, and then step 8. That'll create a like shelf like so. I'm going to pull it right down to the corner here because we just want to take off a little bit of this low end on that stab bass, not a lot, just a tiny bit. And then the same on the top end, step 8, and drag the top end down. So we're going to pull this back a little bit. You can hear what it's doing there, you see? Pull it out a little bit further, and then we're just going to push our 5 a tiny, and a 4. So before, after, a little bit more mid push on that one, which is nice. That's basically what we're going to do for that, plus one extra thing. We're going to add a limiter on it. The reason why we're going to do that is just because we want to chop the tops of all of our sounds to lower our general output of volume at the end. This is a small thing which helps you get a louder mix at the end. So as this note is playing, just bring this green line, which is your seal, to just hit the tips of these. You see it's just on the tips of these. So you'll see that when it's hitting the notes, this is what it's chopping off the top, and it's only just lightly doing it. What that does is it creates a nice flat top on our readings for our dB, and it actually drops it down a little bit without actually lowering the volume. Next thing across, we're going to go to our sub bass. First thing we want to open up here is again a parametric EQ2, and we're going to start with the same options. We're just going to shelf this all the way off, and the same with the top right. Cool. And then from this end, we're going to bring the 2 all the way to the left, and we're just going to pick this up a little bit. I'm going to grab our 3, and we're going to boost that as well. So we've got a nice, bring this 2 down a little bit, so we've got a nice little flat hump at the rear end, and we might just push this 4 a little bit here. So make sure that yours looks roughly like mine. This is not an exact science, it's just got to look similar, so something along the lines of that. Next thing you want to do is open up yourselves a stereo shaper. So these plugins you will have yourself. These aren't downloaded ones. Stereoize 2 is always a good option to start to see where your bass sounds like. So this will be right on the right hand side of your ears, but I think we might try number 3, Stereoize 3 as a preset, and that'll stereo everything out. And let's just drop the volume down to maybe 15 decibels in the reading here. So together with the stab bass now, I'm going to bring the sub bass down a little bit in the mix. Cool, and now we need to go to our mid bass. Oh, sorry, before we do that, let's make sure we do the limiter on our sub bass here as well. So we've got that coming through, and we're just going to chop the tops off there a little bit. Cool, and let's move on to our mid bass. I'm going to lower that volume first thing because it's quite a loud piece. So this is one thing with Marshmello that you might not hear with his mixes, and if it doesn't have it, you feel like it's missing something. So it's a really distorted mid bass. So what we're going to do with this is also stereo it, but first things first, we're going to bring up our parametric EQ2, and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to chop off both ends, just like so, and we're going to get rid of that low end completely. So one's going to go all the way up to about 250 hertz, and 2's at about 100 hertz and all the way flat. And from here we can push our 6 up a tiny bit at around 5000 hertz. So it looks roughly like that. Next thing we want to do is open up our stereo shaper and go to Stereoize 3. So by getting these presets, it's just the corner piece preset Stereoize 3, and we'll get it quite wide. But I think with this we're going to go Stereoize 2. It pushes it even further stereo, and that's together with the sub bass, and then together with the stab bass as well. Now we're just going to lower in the mix that mid bass a wee bit. There we go. Okay, next thing we want to do is add in our leads. So for that, we've also got them running off Sylenth, at least 2 of the layers we do. So let's insert that, and when that comes up, we're going to load again, load preset, and we're going to find lead synth 1, bring that in, and that should be loaded up now. So that's our first lead, and the lead that I came up with. Alright, so I finally got it. This is the little thing that I've come up with. Cool, now we're going to insert another Sylenth 1. And again, we're going to load up ourselves another preset and lead synth 2. Okay, so then we're going to do is copy and paste that in, and we'll take these other basses away. So 1, 2, 3, so we're just hearing our leads. So we actually want to bring this up an octave. So we're able to bring that up. So what we can do is with the control, hold down control and hit the up button, it'll push it up an octave. Together with the basses. So now we're just running dry with the vocals, with the lead. So what we want to do is link to a channel like we did before. So highlight that option, go to the mixer channel, link it in, go back, go to the next one, link it in also, and we're going to run solo on these so that we hear this one individually. The first thing we want to add is first, I always use an EQ2, so I EQ every sound that I get. Steep 8, and obviously with a lead, you don't need the low end, so you can cut that right out. Do the same with the high end as well, and now we're just going to push our tops a wee bit. Give us a little bit more high end on that. Next thing we want to do is add some delay, so fruity delay 2. And just follow what I'm doing here. So first thing first, we're going to bring that volume down to this, just a second notch here. So it's 1 notch, that's second notch. And do the same with our feedback. We'll go just the same for now. At offset time, I'm going to bring all the way up to 207.7 milliseconds. Roughly pretty as close as you can get to that. So if you've got like 202 or 213, you'll be sweet, something around there. So then we play that back. I'm just going to cut the top a little bit. I'm going to cut again. That's the one. And the next thing I'm going to add in is a reverb 2, so fruity reverb 2, bring that up. And again, follow what I'm doing here. That low cut, we're going to cut up to 500 Hertz. Our damp, we're going to bring up to 7 kilohertz. A high cut up to 7 kilohertz as well. And these readings are up in the corner here in case you're wondering. Our decay, we're going to bring to 2 seconds for now, and our wet level, we're going to bring down to 30%. And then our stereo separation, we're going to bring that to, for now, let's start with 75%, we'll start with there. Okay, and we basically want to repeat the same process for the next slot. So one of the things you can do is, for the next channel for the same lead, so what we do is we go into the one we just made, we right click on the channel that it's in, we go file, and we go save mixed track state as, and we're going to save it as Marshmello lead, and save that in there. So that'll save these 3 settings in here. We're going to go to the next channel, we're going to right click on it, file, and then we're going to click on open mixer track state, and it should really be highlighted there. So all you need to do, if you've just saved it from before, is just hit enter. If not, you'll have to search for it in here, find Marshmello lead like so, and then you can click open or just hit enter once it's in the thing, and that'll load these 3 things up. So now if we hear the other one back, if it were off, this is what it would sound like, but because we have the effects already on it, this is what we get. I'm going to bring that volume down, and let's go back to the first one and add our limiter, because I forgot to do that previously. So we'll play that sound and it'll come through on our limiter. Same thing with the chop, just the tips. And that'll flatten out our dB reading, and we want to do the same for our other sound as well. Each sound is different, but you don't want to be reaching the bottom tips. You just want to be chopping off the top ones a wee bit. So I'm just quite a little bit off that one, but pretty much touching on top of that one. So all together, add our basses back in. Okay, so that's what we've got all together. So if we go into our pattern, what we do is we'll place in our first two, or first four, so the first 8 bars will be set up. And what we want to do is make sure that our tempo is right. So for the project that I've got, I want to have it sitting on 142. Now you want to go to where the files are with the Marshmello tutorial files. So in the download, you'll find it. If you can't find it, you just find it in your Explorer and then just drag and drop into FL Studio. Or you can go into Options, File Settings, and then click on one of these file folders. Search for the folder in your system. And then once you've got that folder, click OK, and it'll save it in there, and you'll find it on your left here like I have. So if I click on here, and I go to Yarn and Marshmello tutorial files, I have all my files in here. So what you want to do is grab the Marshmello tutorial vocal, which you have there, and drop it in. And I'm going to do a separate tutorial on how to do this, along with the sound design of the sounds that I have in this tutorial, just because that takes a little bit longer. So this is what this sounds like, this stem.
Never let me go now.
Which is a nice wee, which is actually my voice, which has been pitched and modified. So that's what you get.
Never let me go now.
And a whole bunch of effects and things on there as well. So again, with any sound that you bring in, we're going to link it to a channel, but because it's different than a lead or one of our programs, I'm going to shift it quite far to the right. I want to re-highlight everything, so I just highlight one with a right click, and then again to unhighlight everything. So together we already have
Never let me go now.
But obviously we're going to need kicks and claps and things like that. So let's start with our crash. We'll also put on top. So that's quite simple. We'll drag and drop that in, but we'll also add that to our mixer channels as well.
Never let me go now.
And we're just going to bring our volume of our vocal down a little bit, and same with our crash a wee bit too. But what we're going to do with that crash that we've just brought in, we're going to EQ that as well, just quickly before we move on. So just the same process. We're going to probably end up needing to cut the lows a wee bit because of the type of sound it is. And we're going to push our highs up a little bit. So this is roughly what we're looking at. And I also want to stereo this as well because I want it to fill different spectrums of my sound. So we're going to bring up a Fruity Stereo Shaper, and we're also going to do Stereos 3.
Never let me go now.
Bring that volume down a wee bit with the crash.
Never let me go now.
Cool, pretty easy. Now the next thing we want to do is add in our kick. So I want to make a separate channel for a kick. So what you want to do is either click plus here for another channel. You can just name it pattern 2 or kick or whatever you prefer. And inside, again, our Marshmello tutorial files, you will find the kick, which is in here. So we're going to drag and drop that onto our sampler. One is in here, or you can just, underneath something else, you can drop it in there as well. It's up to you. Alrighty, so what we'll do again is highlight this section here. And we're going to go to insert 1 and link that in. So now our kick's coming up in our radar here. So we're going to do a quick compression on this one. Usually I'll use Camel Crusher for a slight crunch on my kicks. It's really subtle, but for the tutorial we'll use Blood Overdrive as our compressor / distortion. And we're going to give it a little bit of preamp punch. You'll hear it once it starts to distort. It's quite loud, so I'm going to bring that down. So go to where it distorts and then bring it back. So I'm going to go to about there. Cool. And then we're going to go and add a parametric EQ2. And again, we're going to do the same things. Steep 8 here, steep 8 at this side, but with the kick here, we're going to give it a bit more low end punch. Just going to bring that Blood Overdrive back to about 0.40. And then to EQ2, we're going to chop the tops off a little bit, just a little bit of the front. Before, after. But what we also want to do now is go back to our sound, so open up the sample here, and you'll get this shade. So this is what your sample actually looks like in its frequency. So if we use this out knob, we can actually shorten the kick. So full. So I want quite a short punchy kick. So that has got some serious punch, but it doesn't explode like a big kick that does. Like it's a nice tight kick, which is what we want, especially with a Marshmello track like this. Just going to rearrange this a little bit. So we'll put our vocal on top, and then we'll put our samples a sample further down, and our patterns in here. So for our kicks, we've got, one of the things you'll notice is you'll have your sub notes, which are these here. If I paste that in and we play it back, your kick will have a slight tonal pitch, because you can hear it if it go up the octave. See how it does actually have a little bit of tone? So we want to match our kicks to the bass so that there's no frequency imbalance or awkward wobble, which you hear often with a lot of even professional producers. But sometimes it's impossible to keep a nice punchy kick by pitching the kicks. So we're going to give it a go and see how far we get. So I think for our first note, I'm going to start here. We're going to do triplets. And then we're going down to, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes down, so we'll go down to here. And then we'll go up to C for our last notes, and we've got another double. If you've got nice bassy headphones, you'll hear that the kicks are rolling clean with each of them. If I play it on a different part of the notes, you can hear, if you just play this back, you'll hear how the kick will mess with the sub bass. So if I bring that kick out more, it's more obvious. Oh, sorry. If you can hear that little awkward low imbalance, but if I bring it up, it's better. So that's how you keep it clean, and what we can do after that is then get rid of our sub bass in that folder, and we're left with our kicks. And we can paste that in. But if we play this back, you'll hear the kick is not quite as prominent as we'd want. So what we want to do is create a balance adjustment as our sidechain. So a lot of people might use, say, you've got kickstart and things like that, but it's the reason why I like to use Fruity Balance is it gives you infinite abilities to adjust your sidechain so it's perfect, so you can literally make it exactly how you want the sounds to sound like. What you want to do first is highlight one beat length, which would be just the same as, that's the sort of spacing we're looking at. And then you go to each of the channels and we add in a Fruity Balance. So we go Fruity Balance, and for the first one that loads up, you want to right click on the volume, go create automation clip. And then for the next ones, we want to go to the one just to the right of it, add a balance as well here. When that one comes up, the only thing we're going to do is right click on the volume and then go link to controller. Then we're going to go to the internal controller section and we're going to find which we just made, which is the balance. Okay, and when that's in there, we click accept. But make sure that the remove conflicts thing is not highlighted. If that's highlighted, turn that off. You want that off, click accept, close that, and then keep going the way that we were. So another balance on the next one, when that loads up, right click, link to controller, internal controller, balance, accept. Making sure that that highlight is turned off. And then we go again. Balance, link, cool, next one, balance, right click, link, internal controller, balance, accept, done. Okay, so now what that basically means is that this balance is now controlling the volume for those 5 channels, not just the one that we credited on. First thing you want to do here is grab this first notch and go all the way flat. Next, you want to create another point here, and you just do that by pressing the right clicking, and you'll place one in, drag it down to the bottom. Then you want to grab it with the mouse, hold down, and then press Alt, and that'll give you the freedom to move it wherever you want. And we just want it in between these two, so that when the kick hits, initially there's absolutely zero sound coming from all the other sounds. And then we want to go to the tension of this here, and we want to bring that right up to 50, we'll go 60% for now. We'll cut it 50% for start, and we'll adjust it from here. That means that the volume is going to hit, and then it's going to swoop back up this fast, so it sounds like the sound is pumping. So if I take the kicks away, which I can do, then we grab this, and we paste it at the same points where the kicks are. So you see how this kick starts here, this kick starts here, this kick starts here, 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 and so on and so forth. And we keep going through, bam, bam. Once you've done 4 bars, you can copy that across. So by pressing Control, clicking and dragging, you can make a box, Control C, and then make sure that this line is within this bar here, and then you paste it in, and it'll go into that. If you're too far forward, then it'll paste it over there. Again, if you're too far back, it'll paste it early. So if you line it up just before the bar that you want to be in and paste it, it'll paste it in like this. So if I don't have the kicks in here, you'll hear. Alright, and then with the kick. Okay, that's a good start. Next thing we want to do is add in some of the fun things, which would be our hats. So again, we're going to go to our tutorial files. Actually, we'll do our claps first. So if we bring in our claps, we got 1, 2, drop them in there. And these we're going to set up on these notes here, and they're going to be exactly the same, so we can copy and paste. And then we want to do the same thing that we did before. We want to link them to the channels, so highlight the specific ones, go back to your mixer, and link that in. So now we have, nope, sorry. You want to just hear those claps back. So if we paste these in the mix here, and they're quite loud, but for now we'll just play them back. Nope, looks like I got that one wrong. I want to be doing a on these notes here. That's much better. Alright. So it's quite loud. So what have we got? That sound is fine. So the other sound is a little too. It's also a little bit long as well. So you can hear on this one, the tail is quite long. So to get rid of that, we can use our out knob on here. Again, more. It's better. And we also want to do the same with our EQ. Add them in. Even if you feel like these EQs are doing pretty much nothing, you are, because what you're doing is you're taking out any. So if I play this clap sound, so if I play this on this side, if we add an EQ2 in, you can see that this clap has a lot of sound across the spectrum. There's even things happening within here, as you can see, there's movement, but we don't actually need any of that sound in there. So by getting rid of basically anything that's left in here sound-wise, we're leaving space for other sounds to be there, and it gets rid of any conflicts, and it just makes your entire mix cleaner. And we're going to push our highs a little bit. And the same with our other sounds. So if we highlight our channel, the other one will come up, and we want to be doing basically the same thing to start. Push a little bit more highs. Bring the volume down a wee bit. So if we play that back, pretty good. And then of course we want to do our limiting on these as well. So with the ones that come through, we want to be doing the same thing. Just taking the tops off here. And then we're going to want to limit again on the next channel too. So there's that one, and we just chop the tops off. Okay. And now if we play them back all together with the little vocal piece.
Never let me go now.
I think what I'm going to change is take the sidechain off of our leads for start and see how that goes.
Never let me go now.
Yeah, that works well. And then we're also going to get rid of the last 4 kicks in our last bars. Alright. That makes a big difference. Now I want to add something with the Marshmello style. He's got his hat set up in a way that fills up that little dryness that we've got on our drop here. So what we do is we'll go and add another pattern. My favorite way to add another pattern is just to click on this top bar here and then use the right arrow and you go straight into pattern 4 and you can start adding things in. I'm going to go back into our style. I'm going to bring up one of our hats. Let's see. Yeah, open up the open hat 10 and bring that in. And we're going to do the same things that we usually do. We're just going to add it to our channel. So we've got it in there. And this one is in the middle. I think, I'm not too sure. Let's have a look. How have I got that set up? Oh, yep, so we've got 4. So with this hat, it's quite simple and basic, and I want to add a little bit of influence to that. So this pogo option is quite a fun way to change up your sounds a little bit, just to give it a bit more of sort of fun influence. So originally we had it as this. That's what it sounds like. And if we add a bit of pogo to it, you'll get a lot. You can understand how it works. Other way, a little bit less. But I want to add a bit of positive pogo, 16%, I think I have it on roughly, 16-17%. So if we play that together.
Never let me go now.
Cool. So that's the fun part. What we want to do is get rid of our basses actually on this end of this pattern 1. So one of the things we want to do is just go into the corner of the second pattern for pattern 1. Click that and click make unique. That'll make it its own unique pattern. And then we can go to our basses within pattern 2. So making sure we're in pattern 2. We can click on here to open up our basses, shift 2 to shorten. And then we're going to get rid of the last bar. We're going to do that for our sub and our stab bass only. So if we play that back, and then we're going to get rid of our last 2 stabs here. Alright, and then the next thing we want to do is we're going to paste our other patterns in, and we're going to change our kicks. That's the one thing we are going to change, and we're also going to be needing to change our beats that we have in here as well. And our claps will change for our next thing, because what we've got with Marshmello style music is we've got a double up pattern. So he'll start slow, and then the second half of the drop will be a faster version, which sounds faster, but it's just running double time. So if we go to pattern 3, which is our kicks, and we make a unique on that one, what we can do is go then into making sure we're in pattern 4, go into that by clicking there, press shift 2 to highlight, or to zoom to the right length, and then we're going to do our triplets. So what he's got is he's got 1. For him, we've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So, like so. And then that gets repeated for like the whole thing. So we can copy and paste that. Go in here, paste it in, making sure that we're moving it to the right part. Again, and together. Okay. And then what we've got as well is we want to make a new pattern 1. So pattern 1, we're going to click on the corner, make unique. That'll become pattern 2. And we want to get rid of the other one and paste it in there. So what we're going to do now is add one of the influences that Marshmello has often in his tracks. And that is vocal chop layers, or things that sound like a sort of talking addition. And that actually is, if you go into the files, you'll find one of the ones is a vocal shot.
Oh.
That's what it sounds like. So we'll drag that right underneath our leads. And that's in there. So what you'll find that this vocal shot will not be in the same pitch as the leads that we have. So it'll be, I think it's about 5 semitones lower. So if I show you, if we copy and paste our sound that we have in here, which we'll actually use the top one, you get, which together is nowhere near close to what it's supposed to be. So what we do is we go into our channel here, and we actually want to bring this to the correct note, start note, and I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 4 notes lower. See how the notes are shorter? So what we want to do is you can either use stretch as your option, and then you can use the out knob to shorten it. But I don't like doing it that way, so you can leave the stretch on, but I would go back to resample. If you do, right click on time and click none. So this stretch basically means that as it lowers its sound, so if I go down the spectrum, it stays the same length the whole time because the sound is stretched to the pitch. If I'm on resample, you'll hear that it's short, becomes longer as we go down. But what I'll keep it as is resample because it keeps the true sort of sound of the actual vocal the same. And then we're going to use the automation inside the sample. So there is this symbol at the top. You're going to want to click that. And you can either highlight this envelope or first things first, drag this attack all the way to 0. But we're going to give it just a little bit of attack time. So just give it a tiny bit of attack time so we don't have any clicking. And then you're going to turn your sustain all the way down and your release all the way down. Then you're going to bring your hold time back a little bit and your decay back as well. So if we play it, so maybe we want it a little bit shorter. See how it works? So basically just go until you feel it's right. So if you're looking roughly at where I've got the knobs on mine set up, then go with that. And if we put that together with the leads, now obviously we want to link that to a channel as well so that we've got that in there. Let's link it in, and we're going to also open up that same mixer track state we had before, which is under the Marshmello lead. So I can just hit enter and it'll load it up, and we're going to bring down that volume. Now what we want to do is we want to actually add an mysterio shaper because we want this to be wide. So we add an mysterio shaper, and what you'll find is that with the stereo shaper, it'll be after a delay and reverb, so everything's going to be pushed stereo, fully stereo, and it's not going to fill the other spectrum. So what we want is for our stereo shaper to be before our delay and the stereo rack, and we can do that by just going over the one that we want and using the mouse wheel to push it up. So if I want to bring a delay first, I can just highlight over delay, hover over the delay, and then just scroll to move it. If I want to move my parametric EQ2, I can move it all the way down if I wanted. We want that first, and then the stereo shaper, and then we want to use preset Stereoize 3 and play that back. Okay, and then we can bring our basses back in, and that will be for our second drop. Now we also need to go and reload our, obviously our lost my brain on this one, sidechain. So we're going to pop them in the way that they are, but this is the problem we're going to have. It's going to be cut off. These can easily be fixed by just chopping these back and then clicking back on a full one and going back and continuing the process. But because all these kicks are the same for each bar, we can actually just copy and paste these all the way through to the last one there. Then we should get, without the kicks, we've got which sounds strange with the kick. Okay, and then again we're going to go with that pattern 2, and we're going to make a unique and get rid of those last 4 bass notes so that we have the nice finish on our track. drag that through as well. So then we get
Never let me go now.
pretty simple, reasonably straightforward, not too difficult. If you want to then go on to our hats, so we're going to have different claps and hats especially for this as well, but we're going to keep our standard hats here the same, the ones that go, but we're going to add a second layer. So what we can do is actually just take and make one of these a unique, and then add in our next hats, and they'll go in automatically. So what we want to do is find a hat, which is underneath closed hat 04, drop it in, and actually we'll make sure to link this one first. Go into next to our other hat in here, drop it in, Control L, and the way we're going to run the hats on this one is they're quite glitchy and fast, so we're going to make sure that we've got it in a setup like so. Maybe I want them a bit slower for starters, maybe, let's see. Nah, let's do it nice and fast. And then we'll zoom in and we'll do a quadruplet on the last. Okay, and then because that's highlighted, we want to drop the volume down a wee bit. And then we also want to stereo this as well, so we're going to EQ. And we're going to stereo this too. So first thing that I want to do is pop it in stereo, but I'm going to use stereo preset 2 so that we push it as wide as possible. And our EQ, we're going to get rid of whatever we don't need in here. And then we're going to push a little bit of highs and a little bit mid there as well. So that together. Let's not forget our crash. So with our crash, I think we need it to trail more. So we have a bit more volume, starters, but I want a bit more influence from that crash, so we'll add in a reverb, so Fruity Reverb 2 will go on there. Okay, and what we're going to do here, just follow what I'm doing. So low cut we're going to bring to 500 Hertz. High cut we'll bring right up to 10K, so 10,000 Hertz. Same with the damp. We're going to max out our size, just for starters. We're going to max out our stereo separation, and we're going to bring our wet down to 40%, but our decay we're going to boost up to like 10 seconds for start. See that? Okay, more wet. We're going to bring our wet up to say 60%. Try again. We're going to bring our wet up to 75%. We're going to reset our size. Nah, keep our size all the way up. See if any delay will be good. And we'll give us 200 millisecond delay. So that'll trail through our drop. Okay, so now we also need our claps in there as well. I'm just trying to think if we want to add a double. We're going to want to double up on our claps, so we're going to want to make a unique for that one and paste that all the way through and through. And we're just going to change our claps to quadruples. Oh. Copy and paste. Alright, so we play that back from the start.
Never let me go now.
Okay, I'm trying to think if we want to have our clap set up like that or not. Let's have a go.
Never let me go now.
Now we'll leave our claps nice and slow. I prefer it that way so that the hat stays up, the nice open hat. Just with over our top, we've got our Vox is just a little long. much better. Okay, so what we want to do now is we're going to add a bit of an influence before the vox comes in for that next part, that vocal chop we have. So what you do is for your pattern 4, you're going to want to add that layer in. So we've got this in our pattern 2 and 3, which is the vocal chop layer. So we highlight that box, we can hit Control C, go to pattern 4, which is just before the second part of the chorus, and we're just going to paste that in. But what we're going to change here, I'm just going to go back to our mixer, we're going to go back to our original, just our vocal, our pitch layers, sorry, our lead layers. So this is what it sounds like at the moment. And what we want to do is create a filter for these. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in slot 6 or whatever slot you have there, free filter, and we're going to go to this resonance notch. We're going to bring it down to just below 2 notches. So 2 notches, and then it drops in. You'll see it here, and just below that. And we're going to make sure it stays as low pass. I'm going to put this frequency all the way up. Then we're going to right click, and we're going to go create automation clip. Okay, that's for the first one. Now we're going to repeat the process, except we're going to link for the next one. So we're going to add ourselves a free filter. Then we're going to right click on our frequency, link to controller. We're going to find the free filter, except make sure that our resonance is just below that second notch. You can lift this, but it's going to do it itself anyway. And we'll go to the next one and we'll repeat the same process. Free filter, just below 2 notches, link to controller, and then selecting the free filter option and accept, making sure that that remove conflicts thing is not highlighted. Okay, that means that this automation clip is going to control, if I play this here, all 3 layers together. But what I want to do is, okay, what I'm going to do for pattern 4, I'm just going to unsort. We're just going to get rid of everything bar the last bar. So we're going to take all of this and get rid of it. And just in that last bar, we've got that influence coming in. What we're going to do is we're going to bring, because this is what we want. We want this to come down. So we're going to right click on this bar here, which for me is a bar 11. It's a 1 bar before the vocal comes in, and we're going to bring it down to, say, 50%. Let's go down to 40%, and we'll give it a 10% tension as well, and then we'll bring it all the way back up on a 50% tension and see what that sounds like. Okay, we'll go less tension, say 30%. It's pretty good. Now let's have a listen to everything together on that. Cool. Okay. Also, one thing I want to change is with our side chains, we've got a little bit of a conflict here. So what we're going to do is just grab any one of the pieces you have in here, zoom right in so that you can see the lines here. Right click, copy on this top value on the far right, and then we're going to bring this across 1, 2, and then right click, paste value, and then make sure that this stays at 50%. And then you can grab anything in that lane if you want and drag it back so that it's, oh, well, we're not going to be able to do that with all of them. Or I'd say just leave it where it is, it doesn't really matter. And the reason for that is, I've got to do something a little bit cleaner. So I might actually just, with the smaller ones here, just these 2, we're going to bring them back so that we've got a bit more of a cleaner side chain. Alrighty, so all together from the start.
Never let me go now.
Alright, I'm just going to add an ambience layer just to give us a little bit of a feel from the outside crowd. So give me 1 second here. Alright, so what I've done here is I've added just a basic applause, which is just quietly in the background. So what you want to do is that'll be inside the Marshmello tutorial files pack. So drag that out and your file will look like this when you first put it in. Something along the lines of that. What you want to do is just grab the knife tool and with the hold down right click and just chop one beat off the end there, and then do the same just over here, and that will give you 4 bar lengths. And then double click to open up the sample, go to declicking and click on generic, and then just paste that through and through, link that to a channel like I have here, and just bring the mix down super low, almost you can't hear it, but it just gives us a little bit of natural ambience in there. So the final project will sound like this.
Never let me go now. Never let me go now.
If I was going to do anything else, the only thing I would change would be to add more delay and reverb to these parts of the track. Just because it'll add a bit more fullness to the track, so a bit more reverb. And we'll do that for all 3 of them as well. So then we'll get
Never let me go now. Never let me go now. Never let me go now.
oh, well, there it is. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you learned a lot on how to make stuff similar to Marshmello. This is obviously very close to one of his own songs that he has out there. That's where the idea was based off. So take this, use it whatever you like. If you want to use this for your own music, go for it. Just chuck me in the credits somewhere. It's just recognition. That's all I ask for. Don't hesitate to ask me for any other information and things like that. I should be doing another tutorial on how I sound design this. If you do want that, just in the comments let me know, yes, I want to learn how I made these sounds. And I'll go about how I made the mids, the stabs, the subs, the leads, and how I got to the Vox idea and things like that. If you want me to break that down for you, drop in the comments, yes please, and let me know that you do want that, and I'll go ahead and do that. Otherwise, thanks for watching and enjoy the music that you make. Cheers.